Hey everybody, welcome back to another build challenge video, this time centered on the Laser Lance melee weapon. I'm back from travel, so it's been a bit of a hiatus, but I should be back to making videos here and coming up with new off-meta builds for you. So let's talk about the Laser Lance first. We'll take a look at its unique niches, what it's kind of separates it from other weapons, and how we can optimize a build around that, which the final version is obviously what you see here. So one thing about the Lance that is notable, I think, that has to kind of be factored in is that it's got two lunges. However, the charge attack lunge is pretty irrespective of weight. You still hit roughly the same speed. You'll notice I'm breaking 1,000 there, and then if I upgrade my weight quite substantially here, all the way to 95, I still end up breaking 1,000. So the only real consideration here for weight is to make sure that your light lunge is still fast enough for it to do the purposes that you want it to do. And I do think you should make your build centered around having some use of that light lunge, and you can get away with a reasonably heavier mech on this build, which is definitely something that is going to be common because the lance itself is so heavy compared to other melee weapons. Most, especially double melee builds where you're trying to use your lunge to close the gap against lightweights and then still have enough energy to pressure them and play mind games and secure the stagger before you redline. The lance is going to make that a little bit more difficult. I think the lance is largely a defensive melee tool. You use the charge attack when the opponent has gap close to you and you're basically going for a stagger and trying to force them to respect your space and allow you to continue to use your weapons at close to medium range. And then if they do ever fall into the lance, you want to have a combo that follows it, because the lance is one of the few melee weapons that can basically outright stagger most builds on its own. That said, for tanks, we do have the ability to stagger them off of lance with the charged laser shotgun, adding another 950 impact. So that'll basically stagger anything as well. And then we can follow up with a stagger punish with the LCSs. But so with the current weight that I'm sitting at here at 89, I did really find that this was kind of like the sweet spot where I was able to get enough weight, savings that I can still lunge reasonably fast and using the light lunge to gap close, which you'll notice here I'm still breaking 700. Now, the other thing about this build is that I don't actually need to get point blank. This isn't a double melee build. I just need to get close enough such that the LCS's projectile speed is enough, or I'm close enough to make the LCS's projectile speed work for me. And in particular, hitting lightweights. You are going to need to make extensive use of soft lock in this build, and that we do have to run the Talbot because we need strong close range tracking, but we need the ability to hit pseudo max medium range assist by using soft lock. So when you're fighting lightweights at range, it is going to be critical to make use of that. Now, let's just talk about the weapons first, I think. So why each weapon? We are running an energy build because we want to have a build that the lance is filling its need of basically just being, when they've closed the gap, that's sort of like our escape and our punish. But we largely want to be engaging the opponent at medium range. And the LCS, not only being lighter than the other options here, but its charge up time and its fire rate both synergize really well with this build, in especially with the 20C generator, and giving us just sort of sustained fire that it makes us flexible. We can either play defensive and use alternating fire with the LCSs and the LS shotgun without having to have a firing stance because we're a Tetra. So we're able to keep up so much fire that lightweights just don't have a lot of time to pressure us. And if ever we need it, we can access the charge attack to get a massive amount of impact and damage. Note that even the uncharged LCSs, because we're running two of them, we can on demand hit a 1,000 impact burst, which is a lot. It's definitely, if you condition some lightweights, it's going to be enough to outright stagger them into the lance, into LCS punish. I'll show you the combo at the end here, but that is basically the strategy of this build. Use the LCSs and the LS shotgun at range, forcing the opponent to gap close to us, or if they're a lightweight that runs away, they're just going to die from health loss. And then if ever a build is rushing us, we're going to take advantage of the lance's massive impact to outright stagger even tankier builds like heavy bipeds, and yeah, and then basically go into an extremely strong combo. The lance against shields, this build will just switch to using uncharged and just sustained fire and the light lance lunge. If if you have like a good opening, but don't hesitate to use the charged one too because of the long hitbox, it as well as the constant mini stun. The charged lance is one of the best melee weapons for trading into other melee weapons and other like heavier builds because it has a leading hitbox that has a mini stun, so it gives you priority even against something like, for example, the slicer. Because the slicer's blocking window has like gaps in it, a lot of times with the lance, as long as you don't perfectly mistime it, you'll still end up interrupting them because your charged hitbox will go so long that you'll end up hitting them during the lack of parry frames that something like the slicer has. So yeah, and that's one of the stronger matchups for trading melee weapons. So everything else like pulse blades, coral blades, all those other hammer, all those other melee weapons, they tend to just lose if they trade a lunge into the lance. So that is one of the main features, and why I think this is so particularly good on Tetras is the fact that Tetras typically have a lot of issues with builds that have mini stuns and knock them out of hover mode and whatnot, and also because of their large hitbox, they're very poor at dodging those mini stuns, but having the lance gives us the ability to have priority in those trades. Okay, so that's basically the weapon choices here. We also run the LS shotgun rather than like plasma missiles or whatever, or even like rifles, because we want a stagger extension, as well as a splash damage that can hit behind shields when we're shooting down at the ground. But the main thing is just its quick charge up time. It's decent range, so we can hit at quite extreme ranges. If we ever stagger with the LCSs, we can follow up with a charged LS shotgun, whereas the Werger might be out of range most of the time. So yeah, the LS shotgun gives, and it also has the ability to charge up consecutively. So if you do a charge attack, this allows us to go into our combos and do another charged LS, whereas other laser weapons would be overheated. Okay, Kikaku is purely just to take advantage of its extreme energy efficiency. We don't really need a Flugel because our primary boost speed comes from our hover mode, which will be locked at 315. It's just weight dependent, doesn't matter on your booster's thrust. The upward thrust would have been nice, but frankly, with an energy generator, you don't want to be going up into the air because you've already got such a large EN recharge delay. And you get so little back upon redlining at 720 that this build really does want to stay closer to the ground and just snipe with the LCSs up at range. Kikaku having stronger assault boost EN consumption, cheaper QB costs, and having the best melee attack thrust and melee attack thrust consumption helps us out with the lance really burdening our weight when combined with being a Tetra. So we do need the Kikaku to really squeeze out as much as we can get. The arms, again, we're just looking for high melee thrust, good firearm spec, and low weight. The EN cost obviously is helpful too, but we are a little poor on stats with this build, but everything was kind of forced here in terms of weight. The only thing I think that kind of was flexible is the head, and I haven't really decided if we need this stability or not. I mean, Tetras already have such a huge baseline. It might be better just to run more stats, like the Mind Alpha head here has been on my mind. So I may suggest this one. If the scan stats weren't so bad, I would say it's a definite lead, but I don't think you can go much heavier than this. 0.9 is kind of like the ceiling of where I wanted to go for QB reload time, and yeah, that's something that I think I don't want to make any worse than already is, but you can experiment with it if you want and see if you can make this build a little bit more optimized, getting a bit more scan stats and ideally a bit more stats would be helpful. This head would definitely work. I just hate the look of it. So anyways, play around with the headpiece. Talbot just for soft lock access and having basically pseudo max close range assist and medium range assist when running soft lock. Pulse armor is a bit of a dilemma. I think there are some matchups where assault armor would help you, but I think overall pulse armor is better, especially because when they assault armor us, we don't get immediately restaggered because we have over 2,000 stability, and even less so if we manage to activate assault boost right as the assault armor hits us. So I would always say save a little bit of energy for when you need to activate your pulse armor so that you can pull that off successfully and mitigate the impact buildup and make yourself still have about 1,000 impact to go before you get staggered, which should help you finish them off with more of your combos. Okay, so that basically covers the entire build. So I'm just thinking if there's anything worth mentioning about like substitutions. I do think we've kind of ran the gauntlet here in terms of max weight, and we can't really go any heavier. So I did experiment with the LCB cannons, but again, with that weight adding up, the hitbox of the LCS is nice, or sorry, the LCB is nice, but yeah, unfortunately, the charge up time doesn't work with the combos. The weight also really hurts our QB reload. So I think this is kind of the ceiling of what we can aim to achieve with this build in terms of weight, and still making the lance lunge fast enough to get the job done for gap closing against lightweights. Because we don't run any missiles, it is really critical that we have the ability to close the gap with enough energy to body lightweights into the edge of the map and actually get us enough time to threaten them with the LCS sustained fire. We don't want to be any heavier, or we're not going to be able to close the gap, and we're going to burn up too much energy, and then they'll be able to just fly away, and we won't be able to get any damage in. So that's kind of how that came together. Okay, so showing the melee combo that chains off of the successful charged lance. Now, it is advisable that you switch to soft lock while in the combo, just because the charged LCS shoulder guns at the end can be evaded depending on the opponent's recovery time and like their booster type. So worth noting, you could also just take the safer route of just opening up with the charged LCSs instead of the charged shotgun first, but I haven't really found it too much of an issue to actually warrant doing that. So really quickly, I'll just show you the combo. The energy generator speeds up our charge up times of the LCS and the LS shotgun, such that we don't even need to start charging until we've already initiated the lance. So you could even confirm the lance, actually. You don't even have to like immediately start charging it when you activate the lance. You can make sure you land it. So it looks like this. And then you can release another charged LS into kick and then into lance. So that would be the full combo for a more tankier opponent than this one. Okay, so let's start with some of the more difficult matchups like the lightweights. Etzogens in particular can be really frustrating, but missile kites, anything that can really just stay away from you and moves extremely fast. You're going to be a little dependent on the map roll here, but getting the health lead is obviously a huge plus if you can score it. All it takes is one LS or LCS shot, but what I'm going to do here is just body them into the corner of the map. The first round I end up losing, and you can really see how not using soft lock hurts me here versus when in some of the other matchups where I do use soft lock, just how much more reliable the LCS becomes. Another thing to consider too is that the charge attack has higher projectile speed as well as doing more damage, and that's a pretty major reason to actually run it against lightweights if you're going to run in soft lock. But you can see just how the first round here, I basically don't manage to score any hits, and the sheer maneuverability while trying to make use of hard lock is holding me back. However, turn it around in round 2 and 3. So it's worth noting that I have the health lead here. I don't need to pressure him quite so aggressively. Granted, I can't be taking missile chip damage the whole time, so the main difference here is that I don't need to be spending so much energy to chase him down. If I just keep backpedaling out of range of his missiles, he's eventually going to have to spend his energy to close the gap to me. So that is the long and short strategy here, and then just snipe with the LCS. Again, if I was using soft lock here, I'd be seeing a lot better performance, but c'est la vie. against lightweights, I should have just done the light lance lunge there. I didn't need to go for the charged one. That would have been enough to end the fight right off the bat, but it doesn't. It ends up not mattering, but still. Another thing to note too about the lance is that the light lunge is great for doing a huge amount of strip off of pulse armor. When both of you activate it, you can rip off a huge amount of theirs, given the high impact thresholds plus multiplier of the lance's lunges, both light and charged. So here we'll be looking at a build where we're actually on the defensive playstyle. So I'm going to be looking to use the hover mode and the LCS's sniping to maintain space, luring them into the charged lance, and then using that stagger. While I will take advantage of the punish, I'm also going to need to make sure I reestablish space and give myself opportunity to bleed off some of the impact buildup. Because if a build like this does close the gap against us, it's basically a loss. As they're going to be able to shred us immediately and delete us. Don't forget that the LS shotgun has a stagger extension on the charge attack, so that's why I think it's very important to make sure you land that charged LS in order to stagger extend if you miss the LCS or if you just staggered with the LCS. So that's one of the other reasons that I ran this instead of, like, say, the pulse missiles, is I needed a backup stagger extension option for when I staggered with the LCS and needed the ability to hold him in place longer to get space.
Right hand definition at 50%.
Okay, for the meta double Zimm PS shield with laser drones, the main thing here is to break up your LCS shots because they're going to parry them if you just go for the charge one. So we actually need to play for a more sustained outgoing fire battle style. We're going to use hover mode aggressively, be poking with the LCSs at alternate fires. Don't fire them at the same time. You want to force 2 parries, so delay them just slightly. And the LS shotgun you can either charge or uncharge, but charge ones can bait out the shield because they'll think it's another LCS shot, but the uncharged one is good for just creating passive chip. I think in general I prefer the charge. As for the lance, both the uncharged and the charged lance have advantages. The light lunge you recover from quickly, which means you can then put out another attack, because most often they're going to block it anyways, and so you're not going to hit the second half of the charged laser lance anyways. However, every now and then you get lucky and do connect it, and that means you lock them into a mini stun combo. But that's a bit riskier of a play. I think the light lunge is the safer choice because you get the attack out quickly and then you can switch to other attacks. Whereas with the charge lance, you're going to slide off of them and continue into the animation. So if you don't manage to tag them, you're in trouble. The long hitbox though can overwhelm the PS Shield's IG window because the lance hits for so long. You're going to be hitting them outside the IG window more often than not, and getting reasonable impact build up. So yeah, that's basically the general strategy here, is just trying to overwhelm the shield. If you can overheat it, all the better. Then that usually means you get a free combo because they can't block anything anymore. At that point, it's basically easy pickings. So yeah, I think that pretty much sums up how to handle double Zimms. Oh, here's a good example of positioning behind them when they stagger them so that they can't block my lance. You'll see this here in a second. Yeah, so get behind him, he deploys the shield, but it does not block because I'm behind him and he doesn't have time to spin around and get the shield in front of him. So this match is a great illustration of the advantages of running soft lock. So the first round I try to make do with hard lock, but once I switch into soft lock in the second round, you'll see just how much more reliable the LCS becomes at hitting lightweights. So yeah, take note of that. Other than that, this is a very similar strategy as the double Zimm shields. You just are looking to overwhelm them with a sheer number of firing stances. Alternate fire your LCSs, fire the charged shotgun, try to splash, aim down towards the ground if you can and hit them with a splash so it can get behind the shield where possible. And yeah, the lance is kind of like your Hail Mary tool to shut them down once they're on the verge of staggering you and you're getting low on battery and you need to just go for a Hail Mary. So here we'll be versing a rifle and missile kiting Lammergeier. For these ones, the map roll is obviously a huge asset. If you can get one where you have cover, like this one's nice because even though I don't have the good spawn, I can just hide in that little shelter, and as long as I don't take hits while I'm getting to that location, if I can score an LCS hit, at long range I'd recommend using the charge, but at closer range you can try to get away with just doing the uncharged. It doesn't take much though, the Lambs are so fragile. Just gotta do that soft lock and secure the hit, which I do there, and that allows me to just take shelter and hide for the rest of the fight, forcing them to come into my range. That's not to say like just get totally complacent, because they can get plasma missiles in there if they free aim them, but looking for opportunities to snipe with the LCSs and also hit them at like extreme range, because when it's charged it doesn't really deflect at its listed effective range, it's even further than it says.
50%.
Yes.